During the City Council meeting on January 31st, the Barrie City Council approved the 2024 budget for the city service partners, including the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit, the library, the county, and the police. The total budget requested for the service partners amounted to approximately $111 million, with the police department requesting the highest amount of $67.5 million and the county requesting about $30 million. The library requested $10.4 million from the city, less than one-sixth of the police's budget for 2024. Despite this, it faced the most scrutiny. The meeting also featured announcements of two major promotions, included 3 deputations related to the budget, and discussed 2 amendments. Mayor Alex Nuttall announced that Rebecca James Reed has been promoted to the position of General Manager of Access Barrie, while Michelle Banfield has been elevated to the role of Executive Director of the Development Services. Banfield will be the member of the city's executive management team. The first 2 deputants expressed criticism over cuts to the library budget, highlighting a plan within the 2024 business plan and budget that proposed removing $78,000 from the Barrie Public Library Board's budget. However, Ward 9 Councillor Sergio Morales and Mayor Alex Nuttall clarified that the library's budget had not been reduced.
Scott, I think that you quoted a few of us around the table here with regards to the comments about wanting to have the materials in place. So if the money was actually available to have the materials in place, would that encourage you? Would you be happy if the dollars were available to be used? Okay.
Of course.
And if those dollars were already sitting in the library's hands, would that encourage you even more?
Yes.
Wonderful. I think we're on the same page. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Michael Spears, an advocate for reducing the police budget, urged Barrie City Council to re-evaluate the city's allocation of funds towards policing. Spears, who has been presenting deputations on this topic for several years, raised concerns about effectiveness of the current spending, especially given Barrie's low safety ranking among Canadian cities.
I believe policing is an archaic and inherently racist and classist institution used to protect property and the status quo. The police have mistakenly become the default organization for solving society's issues and problems. Their massive budgets squeeze dollars away from more worthy projects, services, resources, and agencies. The police should be defunded, and the money used to fund initiatives that will actually prevent crime.
This year, Spears received significantly more questions from the council than in previous years.
In your estimation, do you feel would be a good percentage of the police budget to go towards social services?
I haven't myself. It's not my my expertise in terms of that, but I come up here and I give my deputation to the board and to the council every year because I strongly believe in the best way to reduce crime is to get at it early and to prevent people from being in a situation where they may have to commit a crime to survive. So I would say as many dollars as the city can give to social services. There's things that would make a difference right away. A more robust food program, funding for a 24/7 warming and cooling center, investments in transit, more money for public housing, more money for the library. To me, these will all have beneficial effects over the next 5, 10, 25 years.
Ward 3 Councillor Anne-Marie Kungal proposed 2 amendments to the 2024 Service Partner Budget, suggesting that the library and police should present to the same committee, either the Community Safety Committee or the Finance and Corporate Services Committee. However, one amendment was withdrawn and the other failed to pass. Please follow the timestamp to navigate to the relevant section of the video.
We have no awards and recognition, reports from officers, and so we're on our way to deputations on committee reports. 8.1, please note that in accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, a maximum of 5 minutes is permitted for each deputation. 8.1 is the first 2 deputations, and the requests are regarding motion 24G009 of the General Committee Report dated January 24th, 2024. Concerning the 2024 business plan and budget service partners. I'll now call upon Trudy Romanek to approach the podium to deliver a deputation. Trudy, welcome to Barrie City Council, and the floor is yours. I'm sorry, Trudy. We're just going to turn those mics on so folks can hear you at home.
There. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Nuttall and Council. I'm here in response to an amendment last week to the 2024 business plan and budget that would remove $78,000 from the budget of the Barrie Public Library Board. My history as a BPL patron goes back more than 50 years to treasured Saturday mornings in the Carnegie Building, hanging on Miss Brown's every word during children's story time. Flash forward to the 1990s when I took my own 3 young children to the new library once a week to discover and read tons of books, especially those recommended by wise librarians like Jane Salmon. They absolutely loved those trips downtown, and all 3 became avid readers. No surprise when they all joined their school team for Battle of the Books, a book-based trivia tournament encouraging reading, organized by the library. Back then, the final competition took place in these very chambers, something that proved to our kids that to Barrie City Council, books and libraries mattered. Tonight, I want to make sure that they still matter to you because the library is also integral to my livelihood. I'm an author of more than a dozen traditionally published fiction and nonfiction books for kids and young adults. A number of those have won awards or been translated into Dutch. I figure it's a library presentation, I need to hold up books. Dutch, simple and complex Chinese characters, Korean, Indonesian, and my favorite, Arabic, because it's backwards. I wrote them while living here in Barrie, primarily accessing research material either at our library itself or through its interlibrary loan program, which allows me to order resources from far-flung cities. Other writers depend on the library too. These days I'm also a playwright. I wrote the play Bobby that Theatre by the Bay produced last year and for which Council kindly declared August 23rd Bobby Rosenfeld Day. Thank you. I can't tell you how many dozens of times I accessed the library's newspaper archives in creating that play. Theatre by the Bay's mandate is to explore our city's past, impossible to do without local resources. The company's 2023 thriller Iceman depended on local historical research, as did their virtual reality walking tour, Ghost Watchers, in 2020, which received the Mayor's Innovation Award for creative collaboration. And as Artistic Director Ian Malgash reminded me, Theatre by the Bay also runs its Barrie Theatre Lab within the library. During the lab's 5 years there, we've workshopped more than 100 new plays by writers of all demographics. I'm currently working on a play about Charlie O'Connor, a former Barrie shoe salesman whose Bursey Street shop and rapid-fire speech were familiar to everyone, but whose complex, tragic history is still unknown to most. My life is consumed and entwined in Barrie's history, I admit. My relatives have lived here since 1844. I'm related to Emma King, after whom the school was named, and the manager of the Barrie Opera House was my great-great-uncle. By helping me learn the real stories behind the rumors, the library allows me to link Barrie's past truth to its present and future. It lets me recognize this city's unsung heroes. Recently, in speaking with Mary Harris of the Barrie Historical Archive, I was sad to learn that almost the entire local history section of the downtown library has been donated to the Simcoe County Archives, including Mary's beloved and invaluable Vernon directories. And now, the archive is a wonderful facility, responsible for the historical holdings of the entire county, but it's situated more than 5 kilometers beyond our northernmost transit stop. This means Barrie's history is no longer accessible to all its citizens. When pressed, library staff told me these aging and irreplaceable materials had been donated due to the library's inability to properly store and adequately preserve them. And to me, that suggests tightened purse strings and shrinking budgets. I outline these things to remind us all that maintaining a healthy library collection is a costly process that involves much more than renewing magazine subscriptions and purchasing some books. It requires maintaining and caring for existing holdings, funding interlibrary loan services, training staff to be knowledgeable about the collection, and so much more. On Monday, I spoke to writer friends in Toronto.
Sorry, Mr. Romanek, I have to cut you off at that point. We've reached the 5-minute mark of the deputation.
Okay.
So I'll grant you just 10 seconds to finish out, and then...
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that the Toronto library system has been down completely since October, and it's a cautionary reminder not to take the treasure trove of knowledge for granted. Because in this world of so many transient things, the permanence of libraries' holdings keeps a city grounded.
So much.
So I urge you to approve the full original budget request. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. Ms. Romanek, thank you for the deputation. I didn't know about the rich history there, so it's always nice to learn. Specifically, the last line you said, and you've said it throughout your deputation, are you aware that that Council didn't pass a motion, an amendment to cut the Barrie Public Library budget?
As I understood it, and perhaps I misunderstood it, there was an amount of $78,000 and some change that had been proposed to be taken from the collections budget to be used for another purpose, for a position, and that now that amount has been, at the last meeting, there was an amendment put forward to remove that $78,000 from its budget.
Yeah, so the reason I ask, and you know, deputations are questions, not a back and forth, I was going to save it for the debate. I just don't know. We always get our highest viewership right at the beginning of a meeting, and there's people here who might leave.
Sure.
So I'm going to very much stick to the question format, Mayor Nettle, but I think the reason I bring that up, Ms. Romanek, is just the technicality is, it's my understanding, so I'm going to ask you, were you aware that $78,000 was originally by Barrie Library staff, not council? It was going to be earmarked for the kind of social service initiative. And then when, as a result of the discussion at council, going to telling the Barrie Library staff to go to the county and have conversations, and then the county agreed to kind of essentially cover that cost. There was no more need for that money, but then there was a motion by a member of council to take what had been asked for that was no longer needed for that earmarking, and then put it towards collection, meaning there's no reduction in collection, just a reduction in expectation if that amendment had been to pass. So,
Councillor, I'm gonna cut you off there, and just allow for the next, if there's any questions or deputation, and then we can take that to the debate if we see fit.
Yep, no, for sure. I hate it when deputy doesn't say something, and if we can't correct it because of procedural, and then they feel like, I'm going to speak for myself, but maybe they think I just was ignoring them. So
yes, you can ask that question if it was. You can ask the question on the cut too.
Ms. Romanek, how do you feel when you sit down later and there's a discussion? How would you feel if council weren't making cuts? They just didn't add to the budget for collections.
I think that given the complexities of library programs and the expansion of the number of patrons who are using the library, I think that it's important that the budget for the library be maintained and increased as its needs are also increasing. I think it's not a static practice that they are trying to oversee, which is sort of what I was trying to get at by pointing out the various things that they do. So I would hope that all of the service partners, you know, are looking to increase their budgets as their needs for certain things expand, and as the library is trying to expand its collections to meet the needs of its patrons.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, and that's why I made a point to highlight you highlighted the importance, so I wanted to emphasize that that got through me, so thank you, Mayor Nettle.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? I don't see any, so thank you so much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Absolutely. And there's a second deputation from Victoria Scott. If Victoria could approach the platform as well, or not the platform, the podium. I almost put you on a pedestal there. Welcome to Barrie City Council, and you have the same time there in terms of 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Nuttall and members of Council. I am here to ask that you reconsider last week's amendment to the 2024 business plan and budget, which removed $78,387 from the budget of the Barrie Public Library, and to approve the library's original request. In the library's budget presentation and subsequent discussions, it was made clear that the library had carved out that $78,000 from which would have ideally been put towards the library's collection. In that night's Q&A, Deputy Mayor Thompson said, and I quote, "I'm actually disappointed to hear that you're looking to use that money, and you're reducing the material purchases, which is your core function. That's the job of the library." I very much shared this disappointment, though as a downtown resident and library patron, I understood the library's urgent need to redirect funds towards a pilot project for social services at the downtown branch. Libraries have a long history as a safe space for self-study, learning, and socializing, but they should not have to make the decision to fund public safety over public resources. With the hope that the library could be provided with more books, Councillor Harris that same evening asked if the library had applied for grants towards this pilot project. So I was overjoyed when it appeared that funding from the county might support this pilot project instead, and I assumed that Council would be as well, with the library funds going back towards their core services where they belong. And at General Committee last week, Mayor Nuttall said, "I want to provide more money for materials, for programming, for things that are going to have an impact for children and families." And later in a CTV News interview, he also said, "I'm concerned when we're cutting core services like materials for kids to read." In fact, there was much more said, both in chambers and in the media in the last week, with Council agreeing that funding materials, programming, and other primary services was essential to properly serve Barrie residents and uphold the library's mandate. And yet, when the county came forward and that $78,000 is freed up to go back towards core services, Council ignored the proposal to redirect this amount to collections and instead voted to take the money out of the library's budget completely. You know, the money belongs to all of us as a community. It's the money of residents like me, residents like the 12,000 new members from the last year looking to access library services, programming, resources, and collections. 12,000 new patrons in the last year. Yet the library requested the lowest increase of all the service partners. 12,000 new people looking for the services our library provides. We need to sustainably support this essential resource for those 12,000, the rest of us who were members before 2023, and all those who will join us in the coming years. The results from the Barrie Public Library Economic Impact Report in 2018 revealed that every dollar invested in the Barrie Public Library generates a value benefit of $4. So cutting out the $78,000 from the library budget would rob our community of a value benefit of over $312,000. Returning that to the budget costs roughly $1.30 to $1.40 per household for the entire year. My husband and I would be more than happy to contribute our 70 cents each to keep the library collections current and our community strong in 2024, and I know we are not the only ones. Yes, of course, some people, some families for whom the $1.40 difference pushes them across the line. But those people, those families who will be most needing the materials and services of a well-resourced library in the coming year. Please support them and all of us by supporting the library's full budget request. Please stay true to your words. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Are there any other questions from members of council? I quickly have one. Ms. Scott, I think that you quoted a few of us around the table here with regards to the comments about wanting to have the materials in place. So if the money was actually available to have the materials in place, would that encourage you? Would you be happy if the dollars were available to be used? Okay.
Of course.
And if those dollars were already sitting in the library's hands, would that encourage you even more?
Yes.
Wonderful. I think we're on the same page. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm now going to go to the next deputation request. It's with regards again to 20. Sorry, Brynn has a question. I apologize, Councillor. I cut you off before.
That's okay, Mayor Nettle. You actually kind of jumped ahead and spoke to what I was going to ask Ms. Scott. I was just actually interested in both speakers, given their questioning in terms of the library prioritizing investments and keeping the collection current and funding materials and cutting core services. I do wonder if they've had an opportunity to meet with the board to ask the board about how they're prioritizing their budget and why they're prioritizing, accumulating surpluses over the past 3 years and not making cuts and actually investing in materials and investing in keeping their collections current. And I just wondered if they had the opportunity to question why they've accumulated over $2 million in surplus over the past 3 years and continue to ask us for more money when they do have the money. So you kind of said it, but I was just asking if they'd had the opportunity to discuss with the board some of their concerns in terms of how the board is prioritizing how they spend their budget.
Thank you, Councillor. I think if it's okay with you, I'll pass the question on just to make sure, because I believe it was to the deputant. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So the question was, Ms. Scott, if you've had the opportunity to discuss the prioritization of dollars with the board of the library. Not as of yet there, Councillor. Are there any other questions before I accidentally move forward? Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll now move on to 8.2, which is the next deputation request, is 24G 010 of the General Committee report dated January 24th, 2024, concerning the 2024 business plan and budget for the Barrie Police Service. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. In order to meet my legislative requirements under Section 17 Sub 3 of the Police Services Act, I will not participate while the deputant is speaking.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I'm now going to call upon Michael Spears to deliver a deputation. So ask Mr. Spears to come to the podium. And sir, you have 5 minutes as well, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, members of council. I've spoken a few times about the police budget. You're all probably well aware of my opinions on the subject. I believe policing is an archaic and inherently racist and classist institution used to protect property and the status quo. The police have mistakenly become the default organization for solving society's issues and problems. Their massive budgets squeeze dollars away from more worthy projects, services, resources, and agencies. The police should be defunded, and the money used to fund initiatives that will actually prevent crime. Here in Barrie, the police budget has increased 45% in the past decade. That's nearly double what it would have gone up had it been kept strictly to inflation. Yet, despite this, a recent list of Canada's most livable cities ranked Barrie 255th in the country when it came to safety. A few months ago, we all sat here and listened to people complain about not feeling safe in the downtown anymore. I ask you then, if increased policing isn't making our city safer, why are we giving the police so much money year after year after year? Seems to me like it might not be working. I would argue that we do it, or more precisely you do it, because it's easy and it's the way it's always been done. You don't require any forward-thinking vision to rubber stamp the police budget. You don't need any courage either. But even if you think that policing is the be-all and end-all when it comes to community safety, the fact is that police simply aren't very good at what people expect them to do. Giving police more money will never make people feel safer because giving police more money doesn't reduce crime. I'm advocating tonight for a cut to the police budget of 10%. It's a good start. Now, before people start going off about how that's going to lead to a massive increase in crime, let's look at the data. Let's be evidence-based in our approach, as the police chief might say. I'm sure you saw the headline a few weeks ago. New study finds no correlation between police spending and crime rates in Ontario. It certainly got my attention. The report, published in an academic journal called Canadian Public Policy, examined a decade of data. The researchers found no clear relationship between higher police budgets and crime, and no association between increasing spending and reducing crime rates. This backs up previous studies, including a review by the Washington Post in 2020 that examined spending on U.S. state and local police over the past 60 years. It also found no correlation between spending and crime rates. Despite this proof, cities and towns are increasingly turning to the police to solve more and more problems, instead of grasping at the root of them. Sadly, the idea of police exceptionalism has become a key part of the hegemony of society, as has the idea that some lives matter less than others. It's why we see tens of millions of dollars going to the police while our social and physical infrastructure starts to crumble around us. It's why we see council nickel and diming the library while holding the wallet wide open for the police, telling them basically to take what they want. It's why we see our friends and neighbors left to fend for themselves in the streets of our community night after night, while homes, churches, storefronts, and other businesses are left empty. Now, I'm not naive. I know that I'm likely not going to convince the 10 of you to suddenly change your opinions tonight. You're not going to tell the police to come back with something better, even though that is possible. Hamilton Council actually did just that this past Tuesday. No, you're going to pass the budget with a few KPIs sprinkled in for the sake of appearances. But I do hope that you can, through some discussion this evening, as well as your actions over the coming weeks and months, at least take community concerns over the cost of policing seriously. For one thing, the police budget needs a lot more scrutiny at the board level. This city also needs to properly explore the role and function of police in our community. It's a conversation that is long overdue. Do the police need to respond to overdoses, or unhoused people in distress, or people experiencing mental health crises? These are just a few things to think about. As we put this year's budget to rest, I encourage you all to do a little self-reflection. Think about what you value and what this community should value. Ask yourself if these values are reflected in the budget, and if they form the foundation of the motions and bylaws you will pass throughout the year. Ask yourself if we can afford to continue handing out so much of the taxpayers' money to the police. Can we do things different next year, in 5 years, maybe 10 years? As I've said before, this isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about deciding as a community how we want to care for and look out for each other. City budgets have starved the people of Barrie for far too long. This must change. The bill will soon come due, and there will be a price to pay, both financially and socially, if you don't start doing things differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spears, for your presentation. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Thompson, and then Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Thank you, Mr. Spears, and I appreciate that you come in front of the board and then council every year and stuff. And, you know, we've had some conversations at the board level of, you know, other things and asked, have you ever, you know, reached out to the other organizations? But I'm just curious if you see a lot of the studies being done now, like January 19th, 2024, San Francisco becomes the latest city to reverse course on and increase police budget. New York, Chicago. You've seen what the decrease of police budgets have done to those cities. So I understand the studies you say and stuff, but when you look at it, so we can talk hypothetically of what would happen, but here is a direct indicator of what happens to a reduced police budget. So I was just wondering your thoughts on those.
Well, I would say that I don't think we can look at individual cities. I think you have to look at larger data groups, and that's why I point to these studies, because they don't actually just pinpoint one city against another. They don't look at moments in time where crime may be up or crime may be down. Like the one the Washington Post did, it was 60 years. So it was up and down, and so the overall findings was that increasing the spending and decreasing the spending had no effect on crime rates at all. And just to your point about speaking with other agencies, I know you mentioned that when I met with the board before. It's hard for those agencies to actually do anything with money because they frankly don't have any money because the police take it all.
Deputy Mayor, you managed the meeting without saying it. I'm going to go over to Councillor Harris.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you, Mr. Spears, for the deputation. And yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head that there probably won't be a robust acceptance of your position, but I thank you for bringing it. One thing I just wanted to touch base on, I have a question for you related to safety, because certainly the city of Barrie and everybody here wants this city to be safe, and that's really important. And you cited a number where Barrie sat on a safety level, and I just wanted to know, were you aware of the Toronto Star article from July 22nd, 2023 that found that Barrie was overall the safest city in Canada, and the stats they use from Stats Canada, they use citizens per police officer, crime severity index, violent crime severity index, nonviolent crime severity index, and crime solving rate. So I just wanted to know, again, because we want to make sure that people are hearing that Barrie is not an unsafe community. I think we often, even that gets leveraged, it got leveraged by the library to get safety for a position at their library downtown. So I just want to make the point. Are you aware that Barrie has been largely the lowest in severe crime in Canada, major cities across Canada for several years, and of this study?
Yeah, I'm aware of the study and the idea of a crime severity index, but I'm not going to stand up here and tell somebody who feels unsafe that they shouldn't feel unsafe. You know, the fact of the matter is that you know, we live in a society, we live in an economy that is based on seeking profit, and it's based on concepts that leave people behind, and people are feeling left behind. And when people are feeling left behind, they resort to things they may not want to do. So, like I said, there's you know, a lot of our city is crumbling socially, and I think those concerns are valid. And I think you know, you can pick any year and look at the crime stats and see that they're down, or you can pick any year and see that they're up. But I think, as I said, if Barrie's ranked so poorly on this livable cities list, despite the fact that, as I said, the police budget has gone up 45% over the past decade, to me, it's an alarm bell that things aren't working the way we're doing it, so we need to do things differently.
Thank you, Madam.
Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. To Mr. Spears, there is one sentiment general sentiment that I totally agree with you on, and that's I personally don't feel comfortable the fact that I feel like I'm almost nickel and diming the library on something. So to be consistent and not a hypocrite, I'm going to ask you a question. You said you were looking for a 10% reduction. Is that a 10% reduction on the baseline budget, meaning the budget they have, meaning the 2023 budget, or a 10% reduction on the budget ask for 2024?
I'm looking at the 10% reduction from last year's budget. So instead of a 6-point-whatever% increase, we should get a 10% decrease.
So it would be an effective roughly 16.7% reduction, effective, because you're adding a baseline plus the ask.
Yeah, I guess so. If you want to look at that,
well,
I do
those
much more.
Those are the facts.
To me, so.
I want to look at the facts, right?
Yeah.
So, and effective and net, those are real terms. So, okay, fair enough. I asked it of the library. I asked it of you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for. Oh, Councillor Corser.
Hi. Just a question. What, in your estimation, do you feel would be a good percentage of the police budget to go towards social services that would support a city our size? Have you done that kind of research? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I haven't myself. It's not my my expertise in terms of that, but I come up here and I give my deputation to the board and to the council every year, because I strongly believe in the best way to reduce crime is to get at it early and to prevent people from being in a situation where they may have to commit a crime to survive. So I would say as many dollars as the city can give to social services. You know, there's things that would make a difference right away. A more robust food program, funding for a 24/7 warming and cooling center, investments in transit, more money for public housing, more money for the library. To me, these will all have beneficial effects over the next 5, 10, 25 years. I think if cities, if they actually approach their budgets from that point of view, when it comes to how much money they give the police, that we'd see a huge payoff. And the city would have lots more money to spend on a lot of things that people need. So not only social services, but infrastructure. You know, we drive around the city of Barrie. We see that roads have been left to crumble over the years because you kept pushing it to the next council, and I'm sure you all here would like to see a lot of neighborhoods with better roads, better sidewalks, better parks, better snow plowing, things like that. So if you reduce the police budget, invest in social services, at the end of the day, it will provide more money to provide those other key services as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your presentation, Mr. Spears. And I think I agree with you when you say that crime prevention requires a lot more social services than what we're giving it. And as you know, the city has no role in social services. That belongs to the county. So I'm wondering, have you approached the county with your recommendations? And if you did, what did they say?
I haven't, but I'm a member of a few different groups that definitely are involved in conversations with the county. I will say that even though obviously the county is responsible for social service operations in the city, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing to stop the city from dipping their finger in things like that, to putting a warming center together, to leasing a storefront or something or a building downtown and operating a 24/7 warming and cooling center. I don't believe there's anything that would stop them. And I also don't believe that the county would say no to money from the city to go to the county specifically for that reason. So I think there's workarounds when it comes to that. So even though on the books, the county may be in charge, and I think the city should strongly advocate to the province to change that. But as it is right now, I do understand that that's the lay of the land. But I do think that investments can be made by the city.
You got a lot of questions this year, Michael.
I did.
To sum up, because I know your deputation was a few moments ago, you're looking for less funding for police, more funding for social services going forward. And so thank you for your presentation this evening, and thank you, members of council, or for answering all members of council's questions. That concludes our deputations for tonight's meetings. And we are going to proceed into our general committee reports. So Deputy Mayor, 11.1, general committee report is to be received.
Thank you, Mayor Nadeau. Excuse me. The general committee report dated January 7th, 2024 as circulated be received. Okay.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Courser, that the general committee report dated January 17th, 2024 as circulated be received. This is 24G006, confidential information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or territory, or crown agency of any of them. Have any questions or comments with regards to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Courser, that Section A of the General Committee report dated January 24, 2024 as circulated be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Courser, that Section A of the General Committee report dated January 24th, 2024 as circulated be received. 24-G-007, report of the Affordability Committee dated January the 17th, 2024. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the Affordability Committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Courser, that Section B of the General Committee report dated January 2024 as circulated be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Corser, that Section B of the General Committee Report dated January 24th, 2024, as circulated, be adopted. 24G008, Funding Requests, Emergency Retaining Wall Reconstruction and Asset Management Plan Update. Are there any questions or comments from members of Council? Seeing none, all those in favour? It carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Corser, that Section C of the General Committee Report dated January 24, 2024, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Corser, the Section C of the General Committee Report dated January 24th, 2024, as circulated, be adopted. This is 24G009, the 2024 Business Plan and Budget for our service partners. Questions or comments from around the table? Councillor Kunkel.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I do have an amendment. So to proceed, I think it's been circulated. Maybe not, yes, okay. So specific to this motion, so I'll put it on the floor as presented. And then for this, it is a motion 24G009. It's specific to paragraph 7B. I think I made reference to this verbally during the conversation, but the purpose of it is to have the Barrie Public Library Board present to the Community Safety Committee instead of the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee, which was framed in the motion. Sorry, when you come on over. Yeah. And I can speak to that.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So part of the conversation when the amendment last week was brought forward around asking for some presentations forward, the purpose of this, if you'll see later in the separated item, is that the Barrie Police Services is coming to the Community Safety Committee. So instead of having them coming to separate committees, having them both come for the same purposes to have a united conversation where we can have a collective conversation that's similar.
Thank you, Councillor. Your amendment's on the floor. It's moved by yourself and seconded by Councillor Corser with regards to 24G09, that it be amended to have the Barrie Public Library present to the Community Safety Committee instead of Finance and Responsible Governance. Any other questions or comments? I'm going to start with Councillor Morales and then we'll go to Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I love the intent of this motion. I won't be supporting it, and here's why. The efficiency of having two community organizations that are going to have lots of similarities in what we may or may not ask them to do, that's great. I don't like the precedent of making exceptions on this, because that's why we have a process. We got a chart, I have it bookmarked, and we all got it, twice, by the way, where it says these items go to this reference committee, these items go to this reference committee, and these items go to this reference committee. So I don't like the precedence of making exceptions, not for the intent of right now. I like the intent of your motion, Councillor Kunkel. It's for later, because now it gets political. And we all agree to that structure that we agreed to in December 22, and so let's keep the integrity of that, and maybe we might, Councillor Kunkel, I might offer, it's your motion, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe we try to book those meetings back to back. So maybe the forum is shared and there's a bit of efficiency, but I'm going to vote down the motion, but I did want to say I like the spirit of it, but I just want to stick to the structure that we've approved.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I guess I could almost say what he said. No, no, but the reality of it is, like, I mean, obviously the Barrie Public Library budget is a financial ask, and that's why it makes sense for it to come to Finance Committee. A lot more sense than a Community Safety Committee, because this is not a community safety matter. There might be other things going on at the library that are not library related that might be community safety related, but the reality of it is the reason the Barrie Public Library comes before us each and every year is for budgetary reasons, and that's why it makes far more sense that it come to finance. So I too can't support this, but appreciate the intent.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the matter? Seeing none, I will. Sorry, Councillor Hamilton, I apologize.
That's okay, and through you, Mayor Nuttall. Just a quick question for Councillor Kunkel. Again, I agree with the intent in trying to promote consistency in how we deal with our partners. Just wondering, like, for me, I'm coming at it from kind of a governance standpoint. I put the motion forward in terms of the report back and coming up with performance indicators. I just wondered, like finance and responsible governance, so that made sense to me for the library. Was there any thought about having police and library go to finance and responsible governance, or why did you lean, or why did you head towards safety for the library?
Sure, thank you for the question, Councillor Hamilton. I'm really not caught up in the minutiae of which one goes where. The ask that was presented is the same for both. So I care more about us both handling the service providers in the same conversation. So if we see it less about finance and more about responsible governance and want to have that conversation in the framing of how do your strategic priorities align to moving ours forward, great. I don't see the benefit of us splitting out the same ask to two different service providers at different committees. I think there are benefits to having a very clear conversation about what we're asking and having a broader public conversation for both. I don't see it as specific to the budget. I saw, at least my takeaway after the conversation around your amendment, Councillor Hamilton, last week, was that we want to actually understand how our priorities align. I don't see it being specific to dollars or the use of dollars, but I would be fine if someone wanted to put a friendly and change both to go to finance and responsible governance, but this was bringing them together in a united conversation. I'll look to the clerk, though, if she wants to add any context about why this committee was identified as the common one to align them to.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Congle. I guess the first glance at the motions, the amendments for last week, was that the KPIs that would be coming from Barrie Police would be related to community safety initiatives, whereas, again, the Barrie Public Library, the process would be more in alignment with the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee. However, there is a section of the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee mandate that deals with intergovernmental relations. So if Council saw fit, we could send both of them to Finance and Responsible Governance. And if that was a suggestion that you want to move forward with, I would suggest you withdraw your amendment and change it to Finance and Responsible Governance Committee for ease of process.
Councillor Corser.
Asking through you, Mayor Nuttall, to I guess Ms. Cook, the ask for the Barrie Police Services to come to Community Safety Committee was in the context of safety within our community, which would be separate from a report on safety issues in our, and have that conversation. I'm not sure if it quite aligns to the original intent of the motion put forth by Councillor Hamilton.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, the presentation back is just to discuss what KPIs they have decided to land on and use for the purposes that are outlined in the budget motion. Mm-hmm. So they would be reporting back on the statistics related to those, like to the KPIs, the success, the if anything needs to be worked on. So that's essentially what the presentation would consist of when they report back, and similar to the library, whatever KPIs they come back with, they would be reporting back through a presentation in the timelines that are outlined in the amendment or the motion from last week.
Just to follow up, just to be clear, that one wouldn't usurp the other, that there would be a presentation, two separate presentations, if this went through for governance to a different committee. The police would still be invited back to speak to community safety, for community safety, correct?
Through you, Councillor Corser, sorry, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, my apologies. They could present under intergovernmental, that's part of the mandate of the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee. If their KPIs are related specifically to community safety initiatives, as part of a motion, once they present, you could have them come back to Community Safety Committee for further discussion on their KPIs at that point.
Okay, it's just that there was something in, there was something in motion going forward, so I just didn't want to see that pushed aside, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Congle?
So again, as it's not related to budget conversations, but having the same conversation we're asking of the providers in the same forum, And it sounds like it does fit within both structures. I can withdraw the motion because it sounds like the preference is that I look to amend the following item on the agenda, which is the Barrie Police Services section, and redirect them to finance and responsible governance instead of community safety. So I'll withdraw.
Okay, so that's withdrawn. Spin right. She wants to now move a different one. Section D. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Madam Clerk, for the advice. So because that's been withdrawn, it'll now be considered, I think there's going to be a separate item considered part of Section D, which is separated out from Section C, which we've been discussing. And so I'm going to ask if there's any other questions or comments or amendments with regards to tonight's budget deliberations for the service partners. I'm seeing none. Oh, so, sorry. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. Now I don't have to frame it in the form of a question because it's a question or comment. I want to thank the two deputants, let me get your names right, Ms. Romanek and Ms. Scott. There's a sense of pride, and I say good pride, not like bad pride, a sense of honor and pride in the services you use, in the history that you know, and in what your community has to offer. So I want to thank you for that. We have a really awkward format. You may watch council, you may not. Like we can't have the back and forth when you speak, and I can speak to you, but you can't really respond to me. It's weird. So that's why I wanted to make the comments earlier. But I want to kind of expand a bit on the kind of comment I alluded to Mr. when I spoke to Mr. Spears. It brings me no great joy being in a situation where we're spending this amount of time on $78,000. It is important that we do, and every dollar counts. But I think this is my ninth budget, Mayor Nettle, and in my first couple of years, I think it was a $55,000 grant writing position in the ECDEV department. That was the big one. And many councillors before me have said it. We'll approve a $20 million project and we'll spend 4 hours on a $50,000 item, as we should. However, I do want to say, and I've said it to councillors before privately, I have huge respect for the chair of the library board, and that's Austin Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, he's a CPA by profession. He climbed the ranks, if you will. There's no official ranks, but he climbed the ranks and earned the respect of his board members very quickly when he was appointed to the board. And I've been on probably over 25 committees, Mayor Nettle, in the community in these 9 years, and he's probably one of the strongest chairs that I've seen from the public. And I say that because I think there's lots of work to do moving forward with both the reserves and operations, because personally speaking, this isn't fun. I don't like the energy being that like we're going after books or people thinking we're cutting when we're not cutting, as Mr. Spears now knows, we're cutting the increase. We're cutting the increase. Cutting an increase is not cutting the baseline. So let's figure this out. Let's get it figured out, and hopefully we can have productive conversations on this, not just for library, but for all service partners. So those are my comments, Mayor Nettle.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Seeing none, I just wanted to hit some highlights for maybe for council and for those folks at home, and really touch on some of the information that we had brought to us from the public tonight. A couple of things that I want to touch on right in advance are the deputation with regards to the police service, and I realize that's the next item we'll deal with, asking for a reduction in funds at the Barrie Police Service. They've just returned $1.2 million to the City of Barrie. That's not a reduction in the budget request that's been brought to us. It is a return to the city of dollars that were in an accumulated surplus over a decade in the making. But there's a reduction, and that reduction is $1.2 million in the police side. And it will be reflected in their balance sheets as well. At the same time, we've had, as we voted last year, and again, this substantiates that or reinforces it, validates that vote, an increase in $1.65 million that we've put into social services as a council. That's on top of the 16% increase that we're sending to the county of Simcoe this year through both capital and operating. So I think we have seen, you know, strides being made when it comes to trying to meet the need of the day and trying to enhance food programs. That was identified inside of that $1.65 million. Trying to get heating and warming for the first time. The city actually stepped up and did that through that $1.65 million. And so the things that were being talked about there are happening through the passing of this budget. The other thing I think it's important to recognize is that, and it's really difficult sometimes from the council perspective, and no one feels sorry for politicians, and I'm not looking for you to do that. When we get the requests with relation to social services, because we write a check. That's what we do. And we show up to, 4 of us show up to meetings, and we try to push for enhancements. But that check is written for the service that's provided by the county. And one of the services provided by the county is social workers, support workers who are out in the community. We had a funding request from the library. The funding request from the library came in totality. Just because the check that's going to be received by either the organization or the individual who's doing support work at the library doesn't have the City of Barrie seal on it, it does not mean it was not funded by the people of the City of Barrie. It is. We had a funding request come forth, and we gave 100% of that funding request, either directly through this council or through the dollars that we send to the county, and the county spend them on our behalf. That's the reality. 100% of the requests that came forward to this city council has been granted yes. I didn't love the way it played out in public in the sense that I wish it had been done in advance. It wasn't. I can't control that. I gave my advice 2 months ago. It didn't seem to either be picked up on one end or the other, and I guess we'll figure that out over time. But the reality is we have funded the request in entirety. In entirety. I also want to point out another thing, because we talk about funding. This budget we're going to approve is a tax reduction budget. And that's hard to believe with a, 4.82% is where we stand, and let's wait for some of the motions that we did earlier to come back with regards to audits and value for service and all of those things. But the reality is, last year we canceled a stormwater fund. That stormwater fund would have been roughly $10 million last year. It would have been $10 million plus this year, roughly $11 million. There's $11 million built into the decisions that we made last year that have cut taxes this year. $11 million equates to something in the neighborhood of, I'm guessing right now, and maybe Mr. Miller can confirm for me if I'm right or wrong, but I'm guessing it's in the 3.5% of a tax increase. Is that roughly correct?
Yes.
So there's an $11 million tax decrease built into our budget based on a decision we made last year. So as a city, I think we've done a really, really, really good job of trying to balance the investments. Yes, we're investing in police. I'm not going to say we're not. We are. Yes, we're investing in social services. Yes, we're investing in the library. And at the same time, we're managing our costs. And nobody feels that more than the folks inside of City Hall, being our public servants, who've done the hard work day in and day out to make that happen. And I just want to compare us with other municipalities. Like 8 and 10% increases. I think there was something that I saw on the Toronto Star pop up on my phone that said that the reduction or the increase in taxes in Toronto has gone from 16% to 10% or something like that. Like, we're not even half that, and we have this $11 million we've already cut. It's incredible. So thank you for the work that you've all done. Thank you for the leadership, Councillor Harvey, you've put into place on finance. And I just want to say thank you for everybody working together, because this week was a difficult one with the back and forth on all of these different subjects. And when we came here tonight, we came together and we tried to figure it out and move forward together. And I think that's a really, really good sign for the year we have ahead. And I apologize for saying all of that prior to the voting on the police part of the budget, but I thought it should be with Councillor Harvey around the table. So I'll call the vote on the budget.
Recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote's being requested. Madam Clerk.
Councillor Rima.
Yes.
Councillor Nixon.
Yes.
Councillor Kungle.
Yes.
Councillor Corser.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Negussi.
Yes.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Morales.
Yes.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
And Mayor Nuttall.
Yes.
Vote carries unanimously.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Corser, that Section D of the General Committee Report dated January 24, 2024, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Corser, that Section D of the General Committee Report dated January 24th, 2024, as circulated, be adopted. 24G 10, 2024 Business Plan and Budget, Barrie Police Service. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. In order to meet my legislative requirements under Section 17, Sub 3 of the Police Services Act, I will not participate in the debate or discussion on this matter.
Madam Clerk, has the conflict been noted?
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, it has.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any questions or comments with regards to Section D, and that's Councillor Kungle?
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I do have, if I need to put the motion on the table, but I do have an amendment.
Floor is yours.
So thank you, seconded by moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Corser, that motion 24G-010, 2024 be amended in paragraph 2B to have the Barrie Police Chief provide a presentation to the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee, and I can speak to that. Thanks, Manning.
Thank you, Councillor. You know what? I'm just going to give you the floor.
All right.
Yeah.
The handwriting's pretty good.
The handwriting's challenging me.
Bridging from just a previous conversation, the behind this, if you're reading the broader parts of the motion, like 2A, for instance, it's talking about the ask. This is about pieces brought forward that this council approved last week that's reflected about performance indicators and goals being established. So it's really just aligning that if we're asking Barrie Police to present the same information, it's not about the budget, that we're also asking of the Barrie Public Library that we have that conversation in the same committee.
Your motion's on the floor. Are there any other questions or comments with regards to the amendment to the main motion? I'm seeing none. I would just offer this piece of advice to everybody, because I think that there's, for me, I was expecting the KPIs from the police to be focused on community safety in the same way that you were asking before the flip. I have the same problem the other way now on this one, and I'm just giving my feeling on it. So I guess as you know, my 2 cents would be to leave the police where they are, but I totally understand if you want to have everything at one place. But the actual lens that I was looking for from the police was, you know, something that I think needed to be brought forward on what their KPIs of success are, and then something that would then work with what the Community Safety Committee sees as KPIs of success, and then move forward out of that. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm on both committees, so it doesn't really matter to me which one it goes to, but I just see more alignment on community safety. Councillor.
Sorry, Mayor Nuttall, I don't like to break process to speak after you, but Ms. Cook, could we not theoretically, I understand that we want to respect the structure of reference committees, could we not call a special meeting of council and technically, and special meeting doesn't mean like 5 hours, it means a purposeful meeting where these two items are addressed, and that way there's no nuances where we're having different committees and the KPIs are wrong, and I really don't want to start the precedent. Also, I'm the chair of community safety, so it's almost me, like, I would, if it was about selfish purposes, I would love for your motion to send it, all of it to committee safety or the other one. But Ms. Cook, could we not call a special meeting of council to address, because these would be considered presentations?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, that would be up to council. They could direct the presentations to be done at a council meeting. But generally, we've been trying to divert these types of presentations to the reference committees as per our strategic priorities and keep things in alignment with our strategic priorities.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Mayor Nuttall, I think we should direct it first to special counsel, and here's the rationale, not to undermine the process and what Ms. Cook just said we're trying to preserve, but this is unique because it aligns with our strategic plan. This isn't just inviting a little community group in Ward 9 or something to go to council to kind of put volume in there. This is a directly arising out of approved amendments from Councillor Hamilton and supported by everybody. So I think it is a acceptable deviation from our process to have a special meeting of council, which actually is televised and is exposed to more people and more accountable to the public. So I am going to write that amendment unless it's taken as a friend. I don't know if it's no
friendlies at council.
No friendlies at council. Okay, so you're gonna have to look at my chicken scratch.
There's an amendment to the amendment coming forward. I'll let you write that out. You get a seconder? Is there a seconder for Councillor Harris? That both, well, one of them we've already dealt with, so that's a little bit too late.
Ms. Cook, how would we clean that up for both?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, we would have to reopen it with a reconsideration motion because council's already passed the motion and done a recorded vote on the motion. So that would be my word of advice, or we can, given that the presentations aren't for 6 months, and you can put a motion forward in 6 months to have them present before they present. That could be an option as well. Hold off and do another motion in 6 months.
Also, I'm thinking about this now. I've had a chance to and it doesn't stop a motion coming. I'm just giving this feedback. You know, as the architect of the committees and what I would envision happening, the alignment of the KPIs that we talk about with the chairs of the committees, associated activities that report through to each individual committee, would make sense that the work that's done between the chair on that subject align with those who are going through that committee. So library does fall under one, Barrie Police does fall under the other. I would say if your recommendation is to undo that and remove those requests up to council as a whole, I think that's maybe undoing some of the original intent. And I'm just thinking on the fly.
Yeah, no, my only intent is just that they present to council. So instead of the whole, are they going to be at one committee or another? Are they going to have a different room and different presence than the other? They both present to a meeting of council, but the work is still done just the way Councillor Hamilton, as approved by everybody,
right. The KPIs for a library are going to be completely different from the KPIs of a police or KPIs of Simcoe County or the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, Nottawasaga, the health unit, blah, 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 blah. So I think there's a rationale and a reason that it's being given, designated an area to flow through to.
Okay, no, that's fair. Okay, my intent with this, and again, speaking after you, I don't like to do it too much. I was just trying to find a compromise, because I do like the spirit of where Councillor Congo was going with this, but with that added kind of understanding, I'm going to not do an amendment, and I'm just going to vote against the change again, unfortunately.
Any other comments or questions on it? I've been very lenient, so if you've spoken once, please we'll forgive it for this. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I appreciate the opportunity. I wasn't going to speak, but I do appreciate the intent. But the more I think about this and the role of Barrie Police Service and the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan as well as the work they do, and I do like seeing it sit in that committee. If they're going to be at the committees, I think that is the right committee. So I appreciate discussion that was held last week and the direction that was taken. I think it is in the right place, so I won't support the amendment, but I appreciate the intention.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion too, because I think it actually is good. It flushes it out for me as much as anybody else. So thank you for the ideas and things brought forward. I'll call the question on the amendment to Section D of the General Committee report. All those in favor? And all those opposed? And it doesn't carry. On Section D of General Committee, are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of Section D? And that carries. We're now at announcements. Councillor Kungle, I look at you because you're ready every week, so.
Oh, I got some good ones.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. We had a nice opportunity to celebrate some achievements of staff this afternoon, and it came also to my attention that we've had a change in the chair of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, and so I did want to congratulate Councillor Rietma on that position, and thank you for your leadership on that. So I thought that was good news coming forward. I do want to share we've had some changes to some committees. So active transportation is actually tomorrow at 5:30, but Communities in Bloom I think is being moved. So members will get an update from that because we do have an overlapping meeting I believe next week. I would like to note for those that did miss the Finance and Responsible Governance meeting, because I had a motion on that I'm getting questions about related to fireworks. Because of time that was deferred, so I know we are going to look at that at the next Finance and Responsible Governance meeting on Wednesday, February the 7th, I believe. Thank you, Wendy. And then last announcement, and I'll tag team with Mayor Nuttall and Councillor Courser if you want to add anything specific to your ward, Councillor Courser. So on Monday, we will be at the Legion 147 on Ferris Lane for a joint Ward 3 and Ward 4 Town Hall that will have Mayor Nuttall sharing announcements and updates at that meeting, and then each respective councillor, myself and Amy, will be identifying ward-specific information. What is going to be, I think, a bit unique, but very pleased to say thank you to staff. We've got various departments coming out to share some information that is related to questions that residents have. So one is on curbside collection and changes happening to blue box and recycling in May. There will be information by staff being provided. Most of you, I believe, through good communications are well aware that your hanging pass for the waterfront as a Barrie resident did expire on December 31st of 2023. I have had questions for individuals who may not have a data plan or cell phone or how to get that updated. So you can come to the Legion. We have staff that will be physically on site to help you register your vehicle. All you need to do is bring ID that you are a Barrie resident, so your license as an example, and then your vehicle ownership. There's great information on the city website. If you're not sure, just give me a call so you can come prepared for that. And I think other than that, Barrie Police will be present to be able to speak to different aspects related to speeding in other zones, and our community safety and well-being officer and Citizens on Patrol, which has been active and responsive to engaging residents on issues, will be there as well. So it will be a great night, and would also encourage you, whether you're a Legion member or not, those doors are always open, so do come and find out more information about your local Legion.
Are there any other announcements this evening? Councillor Harris.
I'll be really fast, Mayor Nuttall, thank you. I just want to double check with Ms. MacArthur. I believe we have extended the deadline for applications for the new Barrie Youth Council. Is that correct?
Yes, we did extend it to February 2nd, which is this Friday at 4:30.
Okay, February 2nd. So if you know a young person who's interested in being involved in Barrie's first youth council, please have them visit the City of Barrie website where they can get the information to join. And week in, week out, we see talented young people come here and fill the chair of a student mayor, and we know we have a couple of student mayor supreme examples here on council, and Mayor Nuttall and Councillor Morales. So please, we're excited about having the commitment to this youth council, and we really want to have our youth get out and have that opportunity. So thank you for the time. And just while I have the mic, thank you, Mayor Nuttall and Natasha, for attending, and the Waste Collections team for attending the Ward 8 Town Hall on Monday. It was great. Ward 8 always delivers with questions and interest. So thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for all your support and the time you spent at the meeting with residents. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. It was a great opportunity to chat with people, as every one of these town halls are. Any other announcements before we continue? Okay, so for the month of February, the Recreation and Culture Services Department has planned several programs, including the Hello Winter with celebrations across the city in the entire month. Winterfest on February 3rd and 4th at Heritage Park and Meridian Place, and Family Day events on February 19th at the Barrie Community Sports Complex. If you've never been, please go. It is a wonderful, wonderful time. My little ones love it. I think I love it more. For more information on this month's events, please visit our calendar at barrie.ca/community events. The City of Barrie is accepting applications from eligible local organizations for the Bright Futures Barrie Grant. Funds from this grant will support new or enhanced programming for at-risk children, youth, and adults. Funding is available to organizations that provide services within Barrie. Applications will be accepted until 4:30 on February 15th, 2024. Interested organizations can learn more about the grant and apply via barrie.ca/brightfuturesgrant. The city is accepting applications for Barrie citizens to be considered for appointment to the Business Licensing Appeal Committee, the Heritage Barrie Committee, and the Youth Council. The application deadline is the 2nd of February at 4:30 p.m. For further information, visit barrie.ca/committees, task forces, or email appoint@barrie.ca. Before I go to Deputy Mayor Thompson on the bylaws, I wanted to apologize to our clerk, who has a special birthday at home, and I promised you 8 p.m. and I didn't deliver. So we wish a very happy birthday, and we're going to get out of here in a couple moments, I hope. Deputy Mayor. Oh, Councillor Hamilton, I have written 5 places that it's your birthday, and I haven't said happy birthday. Like, it's all over my notes, and I haven't done it. So okay. I apologize, Councillor Hamilton. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Invite us to the party next time. It's moved by, or sorry, I can't do it before you. You go first there, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Courser. Leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time on this day, and finally passed. Bill 7 to 15.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Courser, that leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day, and finally passed. Bills 007-2015. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor? They carry. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Courser. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time on this day, and finally passed. Bill 16.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Courser, for the confirmation bylaw that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day, and finally passed. Bill 016. All those in favor? It carries. Do I get a motion to adjourn from Councillor Rietma and Councillor Nixon? All those in favor of adjournment? We are adjourned at 8:39 on the 31st of January.
That was the budget update from the City Hall. Thank you.